Hey y'all, it's me, Cecilia. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're doing a more serious video. I usually don't do, extremely serious videos on my channel, but I felt the need that I needed to talk about this and just talk to the book community about this. So if you don't know, I don't know how you could not have known, but just the other day, George Floyd was killed by a police officer. A police officer was kneeling on his neck and he kept repeatedly saying, I can't breathe, and was killed unjustly over a bad check that wasn't even bad. It angers me just thinking about it. It's been all over Twitter, the video's been all over Twitter, and Twitter's been in an uproar. I'm going to be specifically focusing on book Twitter in this video because my channel is primarily a book video, but the response has been outrageous. Everyone is outraged for good reason. I'm outraged. If you follow me on Twitter, I've just been tweeting nonstop for like 2 days straight, just trying to talk and explain. You see a lot of Black creators trying to talk and explain and talk about how they feel and everything like that, and the response from white creators has been mixed. You've seen white creators who are allies, who are actual allies, who are trying to understand, who are trying to promote and retweet as many Black creators' tweets as possible, and are trying to bring up awareness, signing the petition, donating money to Black Lives Matter and to the family, which is always great. And then there's some white creators that aren't doing that, some that are silencing Black creators' voices, telling them some despicable things. There are white creators who are just silent. To me, and I know to a lot of Black creators, Black people, that silence is just like being on the opposing side. You can't be an ally and be silent. That's just not how it works. And I made a tweet, I will put it up above, saying that if the only book you have read this year has been The Hate U Give, or the only Black book you have read this year has been The Hate U Give, please unfollow me because you don't care about Black people, you don't care about the Black community. And I stand by that because you don't. If you are not prioritizing Black thoughts, Black books, Black creations, Black authors, Black people, you don't care about the Black community, and you can't try to tell me that you do. I remember sometime, I want to say it's last year, and I don't even remember the booktuber, but it was during Blackathon. They had read one Black book and they had made a video talking about that they said they were going to only read Black books during that month, and that they are going to stop doing that because that reading from Black authors does not make them happy. Reading from Black creators gives them too much stress and they just want to have fun, and then they picked up a Sarah J. Maas book. I promptly unfollowed them or unsubscribed from them that immediate moment, and it really just shows there are not enough allies in this community. There is a lot of fake inclusivity or fake diversity. I would say fake inclusivity. There's a lot of fake inclusivity of people just saying that they care about Black creators, but their actions don't speak like that. They're not reading Black books, they aren't promoting Black creators, they're not speaking on these topics when we need people to speak up about them. And that's fairly unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. And I'm sick and fucking tired of it. I'm fucking tired of it. And sorry, I'm so upset. I see there's been a lot of questions from white people just talking about what can we do to help? What can we do? And a lot of people are just saying just read from Black authors, understand, research, and learn about the Black perspective, learn about the injustices in our society, learn about all of the ways that Black people are being oppressed in not just America, but in the world, in just little aspects. And I'm here today to give some resources, give some books by Black authors about the Black experience. I have there's 11 books on this list that I want to recommend. Some I have read, some I have not. This is just a resource for people that need to read books. Why I am contemplating calling this video Books All White People Need to Read, because yeah, you do. And by the way, all these books are nonfiction. I'm not putting any fiction on this list because frankly, fiction doesn't do enough in terms of this. Only reading fiction books about the Black experience isn't good enough, because fiction is exactly what it says in the title. It's fictional, it's not real. A lot of the experiences are based off of real things. They talk about real issues, but they don't go in depth. They don't talk about the actual people who have been murdered. They don't talk about the real statistics. And in order to be an ally, in order to fight for this cause and to truly care, you need to know these things. So here are 11 books that all white people should read. The first book on my list is the book that I'm actually currently reading at the moment, and it is White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo. So this book explores the reactions that white people have when race is brought up, why white people get so mad about race, or why race matters in that kind of way. It talks about when white people talk about these assumptions that they have about race, and when they are challenged, why white people get so upset about it, how this rage leads into racial inequality, and how these emotions and the way that white people react to when Black people have valid criticisms, how it's preventing these conversations from happening, how it's protecting racial inequality, and it also talks about how to constructively talk about race to not just white people, but to Black people and to pretty much everyone, just how to talk about race. So far, I'm really enjoying it. Next book, which I think is one of the most popular ones on this list, is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Ito Louge. So this book talks about a lot of different issues. First, based off this author, she was talking about the racism that is experienced in London, but takes her experiences in London and expands them into different historical moments. She talks about a lot of different things in this book. Black history that is just never talked about in history classes, all the way to white dominance in our political atmosphere, the whitewashed feminism, and links all of these, but also links the intersectionality between class and race and how race affects what classes you're in and stuff like that. This one is definitely on my list, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this one, so I think it's a pretty great resource. Next we have is kind of an older work. It was released in 1998, but it really just brings like the intersectionality of like Black people plus feminism and all that kind of stuff. This one is Killing the Black Body: Race, Reproduction, and the Meaning of Liberty by Dorothy Roberts. So this one comes from a Black feminist perspective, and it really talks about redefining liberty and equality and what that truly means for Black women, but just for Black people in general, because the equality and liberty do not mean the same when you're Black, at least at this point in time compared to white people. And she really talks about that in this book, and she comes from a legal perspective but also from a historical perspective. So bringing those two into one, which I think is really important. Even though this one's old, I think that the topics that she explains in this book will be really beneficial to right now, especially with all the discourse going on right now. So yeah. Next book I have is Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Davis. This is the collection of essays, interviews, speeches that Angela Davis has given over the years. She's talking about the importance of Black feminism, of intersectionality, and mass incarceration in America. She talks about these topics through historical events, so like the Black Freedom Movement, South African apartheid, Palestine, Ferguson, and goes through all of those ways in order to talk about incarceration, Black feminism, intersectionality. And I've read a couple of her essays before. I haven't read this entire collection, but I read a couple of the essays in this book, and they are fantastic. Angela Davis is a wonderful writer, and I want to finish this collection soon. I just need to get my hands on a physical copy. So next I have is The Fire This Time: A New Generation Speaks on Race, edited by Jesmyn Ward. So this is 18 different essays and poems from different authors, not just Black authors, but just authors of color in the community. There are authors like Daniel Jose Alder, Kima Jones, Mitchell S. Jackson, and many others. And each one just talks about different aspects of what race means to them and their experience with race in this day and age. And it's very interesting. I read this back when it came out in 2016. I don't remember much about this collection, but I remember the impact it had on me. And after reading this collection, I just felt like I had a new perspective. Even though I am black, I am mixed race, and I do have privileges. Of course, I am of a lighter skin tone, and I recognize these privileges. But sometimes I even need a wake-up call. Even sometimes I need to learn a little bit more about certain things that I don't experience, and I felt like this collection really helped with that. Now, this collection is kind of in a response to James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, which was released in 1963, and this was his essay collection that he came out with. I personally haven't read this essay from James Baldwin, but it's one of his most famous ones. So next I'm going to talk about a couple biographies from some very important people in the Black freedom movement and just really important black activists that I think that we should read about. The first one I'll be talking about is Assata, an autobiography by Assata Shakur. Now, Assata Shakur is very important. She was a Black Panther. She was pretty much America's #1 most wanted woman. She's actually still alive. She's living in Cuba. She was the target of J. Edgar Hoover's campaign to pretty much bring down black nationalist organizations, and she was charged with attempted murder. Sorry, not attempted murder, accomplice to murder, and with really no evidence, but she was still incarcerated for 4 years because of this. She did escape prison and was given political asylum in Cuba, where she now still resides, and this is just an autobiography of her life, talking about her childhood, how she got into political activism, and what she was dealing with while in prison and going through all of this. And I read excerpts of this book, and it really seems amazing, and I'm going to go pick this up really soon after I film this video. Another biography is Revolutionary Suicide, Huey P. Newton. Now, Huey Newton is credited for starting the Black Panther movement, pretty much the founding Black Panther, and this memoir that he wrote pretty much just goes over his life, starts at his childhood in Oakland, goes through his struggles of just living his life. Also talks about a solitary confinement that he felt when he was convicted and went to jail. So this one's also really interesting. The next one I'm going to be talking about, The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. So in this book, it really talks about the history of mass incarceration, why there is such a big black population in prison. I believe the statistic is that the 40% of prisons is just black males, or is just black men, or just black people in general, while black people only take up about 20% of the population, which is honestly crazy. And it talks about all of the systems in place that really just targets people of color, but specifically black people, in order to get into the prison system and stay in the prison system. This book has been very eye-opening for me, and a good supplementary material to this is 13th Amendment. This, I believe, the author of this book also helped make this documentary. It is free on YouTube, so there's no excuse for you to not watch it. But it really just also talks about the mass incarceration in America, how it got to be so bad, and all the little systems in place. It's about an 1.5 hour long documentary, and I really recommend it. It is very well produced. The next book I'm going to be talking about is actually a recent release. It came out in April, and it talks more about just how the little things just are used to oppress people of color. This one's The Address Book, What Street Addresses Reveal About Identity, Race, Wealth, and Power by Dear Jean Mask. Now, pretty much what this book talks about, it talks about the history of street addresses, why streets are named the way that they are, why the numbers are arranged in the numbers that they are, and how they're related to class and race. A couple examples that is used in this book is how they title street addresses Martin Luther King Drive or Freeway, and how it's kind of a sign of, oh, black people live here, and pretty much letting people know you don't want to live here because there's black people living here. And it's really interesting. It doesn't just go from an American perspective, it goes from a whole worldwide perspective and really analyzes it. I have read the first, I believe, 50 pages of this book, and it's already very interesting. My hold expired at the library, so I need to recheck this book out, but it is so good so far. Like, who would think that something as small as your street name like plays into racism? It's very crazy. And the last book I'm going to be talking about is White Rage: The Unspoken Truth of Our Racial Divide by Carol Anderson. So this book pretty much talks about all the forces that white people have used in their terms of rage in order to pretty much shut down black people, shut down their freedom of speech, shut down their human rights in America, and talks about white rage and how white rage justifies, well, white rage of course justifies racism, but how white rage is used and is explaining kind of dumb reasons, like in names of like protecting democracy and dumb reasons like that. And this book seems very interesting. I want to pick it up very soon, and I've heard very good things from black reviewers about this book, so I think this one is a good one to pick up. Alright, that was 11 books about racism. I think y'all should read all of them. I'm going to definitely read the ones on this list that I haven't read yet. If you have any recommendations on other books about race, please leave them down below. Maybe I'll do a video talking about fiction books from black authors about black experiences. We just need to remember that when black people, black creators, just black people in general are expressing injustice, when things like this happen, we can't do it alone. We need people to rally with us. And by staying silent, you are part of the problem. It is not acceptable to stay silent anymore. People are dying in the goddamn street over the color of their fucking skin. And this shit. People can't, like, the feeling that people would say when racism doesn't exist. Sorry, my camera stopped recording, but we need to rally together. There are other ways that we need to help. I will leave the petition down below in order to get justice for George Floyd. Please go sign it. I will also leave the donation down below. Please make a donation for his family. Please speak out as much as you can. Go to a protest. Just please speak out, because silence, please speak out. Silence is part of the problem. If you are silent, you are part of the problem. That's it for today, guys. Maybe I'll make more videos like this in the future, who knows, but I'll see you in another video. Peace.